So as we look at assertive leadership in water, and assertive leadership is needed to address a lot of the issues and challenges and dialogue, we need these leaders at the table to try to guide and to navigate how we are going to find productive and constructive solutions and pathways, so we can not only find those to address the issues we have today, but also those challenges that we are going to need to address for the future and for future generations. And one of those leaders who many of you know is joining us right now. Heather Dutton is part of the San Luis Valley Conservancy, and she's here this morning to be able to offer us a little perspective on really, you know, what's going to happen, or what could happen with the threat of export if water is to be exported out of the San Luis Valley. She's grew up in the San Luis Valley. She grew up around a potato and barley farm. She knows exactly how water is needed for agriculture, but she's also worked in this role of being part of the Conservancy District to know how it's needed to manage augmentation for domestic, commercial, municipal wells throughout the San Luis Valley. She is also our representative from the San Luis Valley on the Colorado Water Conservation Board, CWCB. And so we're very grateful and thankful for her representation there, because she offers, again, that assertive leadership and that assertive perspective to be that voice that we need to actively engage at those tables and for those discussions. So Heather, good morning. Thank you for joining us, and definitely excited about your insight and thoughts, especially as we've seen over the past year. It's really ramped up in some of this discussion around water exportation. It seems like just like water levels flow and rise in our aquifers, so does the topic of exportation of water from the San Luis Valley at different times. It's been quite quiet for a while. We're starting to see it again. So Heather, good morning and welcome.
Thank you, Armando. Thanks for the introduction, and thank you for taking your time. You know, you're just so helpful and so important to the basin too. And so it's really nice that you would take the time on this Saturday morning to help facilitate this conversation. We appreciate you and appreciate the Salazar Center in Rio for putting this event on. I always learn a lot from hearing from my peers and from all these other people working really hard. So thank you for having me. You know, Rio asked me to spend a few minutes and just update the group on the latest export proposal. And so this is the renewable water resources effort. And so that's what I'm going to do this morning. I'll walk you through, you know, what RWR has proposed, and then, you know, what the Valley has communicated about our concerns from that proposal, and then what you as members of the community and engaged, you know, leaders in water can do to respond and make your voices heard. So we'll start by, you know, just saying kind of what is RWR and who is RWR. It's a group of businessmen and former politicians and businesswomen too, who have put forward an idea to export 22,000 acre feet out of the San Luis Valley. For many years, they've been talking about this idea and hadn't identified an end user until with the American Recovery, the ARPA program, the America Rescue Plan Act. That was really the catalyst for RWR to make a move and to, I feel like, accelerate what they're talking about and who they're talking to. And so they have requested funds from Douglas County through that ARPA fund. So taxpayer dollars to, in the realm of $20 million. They did update that ask and drop it down to $10 million, but they're requesting funds for Douglas County to come alongside them and pursue this effort to pump 22,000 acre feet from the northeastern San Luis Valley, from the Confined Aquifer to Douglas County. And so the mechanism here is they're proposing a new well field in the northeastern portion of the valley. I'll show a map here in a little bit. That would include, you know, 25 to 30 new confined aquifer wells, so deep groundwater wells. And they're also proposing a pipeline out of the valley over Poncha Pass. The proposal that was submitted to Douglas County notes taking the pipeline over Trout Creek Pass and putting that water into the South Platte. Recently, though, representatives from RWR in meetings with Douglas County have pivoted a little bit and noted that they may propose to just take that water to the Arkansas River and then try to build partnerships to move that water from the Arkansas River to Douglas County from there. To do all this, RWR is proposing retiring 34,000 acre feet of existing confined aquifer pumping. And they've also said that they would establish a $50 million community fund. So this would be a one-time investment in our community that RWR is purporting could serve as some kind of foundation where, if managed correctly, could provide interest a few $1 million a year for us to decide how to spend within the community. And so this is, generally the meat or the sideboards of RWR's proposal. And so I'll share a little bit about, how this is a problem for us and why it's a concern for the basin. It's concern for those of us working in the water management realm, and I believe it should be a concern for all of us since water is connected in the Rio Grande Basin. And so I think that Rio put me where I am on the agenda on purpose, because following the conversations with Craig Cotton and then that conversation with the panel regarding subdistricts, it's very clear that we are already in a big challenge in this basin. We are a water short basin. We always have been. We've always lived in this high mountain desert where our only saving grace is the stream flow and precipitation on the mountains around us. But if it came to just, existing in the valley, it would be a pretty tough life. But we're blessed to have these rivers flowing in that then help refill the aquifers that we depend on. But as we all know, the surface water has decreased. I really appreciated that Craig threw up the histogram that showed, the flows in the Rio Grande over the period of record, and then really, put those brackets in that red line showing that over time, the average flows on the Rio Grande have decreased. And so we've seen, Craig highlighted that the long-term average from 1890 to 2021 is a little less than 640,000 acre feet at the Del Norte gauge. In just the last 20 years, from 2000 to 2021, that average is 550,000. And so that's a loss of, on average, 89,000 acre feet per year at the Del Norte gauge. And that's huge for us. And that's contributed to the challenges that we're facing today in having, decreased stream flows, and then therefore decreased aquifer levels, and really, the community coming together and learning to live within our means. So the bottom line is, there's less water coming into the system than there is going out. And we already are, working really aggressively and collaboratively to try to deal with that challenge. The other thing to really highlight here is that, again, all of the water in the basin is connected, and all of our water is over appropriated. And so any new use of water in the basin is going to come by replacing an existing use. So that's, family farms and ranches that would have to be dried up, and, losing that wildlife habitat, that agriculture productivity, that connectivity of hydrology to be able to make water available for this export proposal. So here are some specific challenges and some data. Those of you that know me know I love numbers, so I couldn't help but provide some numbers for the presentation. So where RWR is proposing to retire 34,000 acre feet of pumping, it's really hard to say exactly what they're going to do, because their proposal is frankly very vague and very short on specifics. But just looking at, if we assume across the basin that an average consumptive use amount is 1.5 feet per acre, and again, this is just a broad assumption so that we're able to have a conversation and to kind of put the impacts of RWR into perspective. And so if we assume that retiring 34,000 acre feet would take 22,667 acres of dry up, again, assuming that 1.5 acre feet per acre value, that could go up or down depending on what type of land RWR prioritizes or seeks to dry up. But just a pretty safe assumption that it would take at least 22,667 acres dry up. So to put this into perspective, because we don't all think in acres, right? And I guess I should step back here too. I appreciated the conversation around the glossary and, you know, Armando noting that we all speak in certain terms here in the water world and forget that not everybody lives this same reality. And so, you know, an acre foot, an acre is about, just to visualize, it's about a football field with the end zones cut off. And so if you picture a foot of water standing on that football field, that would be an acre foot. So a foot deep across an acre is an acre foot. And that's enough water to provide for about 3 families every year. We at the Conservancy District assume that if someone has a domestic well, they're going to pump 1/3 of an acre foot to provide for their in-home use. And so, you know, 22,000 football fields is pretty significant. And then maybe those of us too that grew up in the valley or kind of think about acres and fields, you know, you can look across this image that I give credit to Rio. I snagged it from the water plan images folder, this great aerial that she took last year. And imagine that to make water available for renewable water resources plan, there would be the equivalent of 189 of these center pivots. So a center pivot is generally 120 acres under that sprinkler. And so we're talking about an incredible amount of land that would have to be dried up to make space for this new use. This could have pretty great impacts to our economy by drying up this amount of land. We've estimated that the annual loss of economic productivity, and so this is looking at the trickle down effects to the economy, that when a farmer sells $1 of potatoes, there's 47 cents that goes back to the community. And that's, that supports restaurants, stores, equipment dealers, fertilizer, chemicals, truckers, hospitals, electrical productivity or electrical payments for pumping that well. And just all this connectivity we have in our community. If we assume, again, this conservative number of 22,667 acres being dried up, it's pretty safe to also conservatively assume that we would have an annual loss of $53 million to this community in our economy. That's just the agriculture economy. That's just thinking about the buy and dry. If we look at also the other ways, that the farms and ranches in our community are connected, there's $500 million of water-based recreation that occurs in the Rio Grande Basin every year. There's a huge amount of people, over 500,000 people visited the Great Sand Dunes last year. And then, over $3.5 million on average gets spent when people come to Monte Vista to see the cranes every spring. And so all these ways that water is connected and provides for all of us could be impacted, and we could have even greater impacts to our local economy and to our community. And I'm using a lot of coulds here. I'm trying to really preface that, these are assumptions that we're making, again, to try to put things into context. What's been challenging is that RWR has not provided specifics. Their proposal is, at this stage, it's just a concept. They haven't provided an engineering report, a timeline, or a true budget. And so, the location of the parcels that they would target for dry up and the wells that they would want to retire for their plan is unknown. The type of land, again, that they would look for is unknown, and their plan for revegetation is unknown. And we know that this is a big challenge here, that if ground gets taken out of production and there isn't revegetation, we just see tons of weeds and dust, and that's a real challenge for us. Another major issue, building off of the economic impacts, there are the hydrologic impacts. And so the conversation around subdistricts really highlighted, this need, and Craig Cotton's presentation also highlighted the requirement for us to get to sustainable levels in our aquifer in accordance with the 2015 groundwater rules. And so this is another really big question. How would RWR be part of that? How would they comply with our rules? They continue to say they would comply with the rules in the basin, but they haven't said how. And so it's hard for us to trust that they could get it done, because, as an example, you can see this black area with the hatched lines across it. That's the proposed well field that RWR has put forward. You can see its vicinities to the Baca National Wildlife Refuge, the Great Sand Dunes, Russell Lake, and Saguache Creek. This well field is located in the San Luis Creek response area. So that's getting back to, the lingo of the Rio Grande Decision Support System model, or RGDSS. That's the model that helps us understand how well pumping in the valley impacts impacts the aquifer and also impacts the streams and rivers connected to it. And I should have said aquifers, so please note that there. So this is a really big question here, because the average pumping in the San Luis Creek response area for the last 5 years was a little more than 11,000 acre feet. And the confined aquifer in that response area is considered to be unsustainable. And so it's a huge question of how would, I'm going to use my cursor here, how would an entity come in and propose to dry up, wells in a big area across potentially subdistricts 4, 5, and 1, to be able to then concentrate well pumping to this small area within a response area that at half of the current pumping that RWR is proposing is already unsustainable. And so to say that another way, to comply with the confined aquifer rules, RWR has said that they would, follow our 1-to-1 replacement rules that require going out, finding an existing confined aquifer use, drying that up, and then being able to move water. Well, that has to be within the same hydrologic area and the same depth. And so how is it possible that RWR would be able to take pumping that is currently occurring over a broader geographic area and then bring it down, put it into this concentrated area and put a bigger draw on an area that's already unsustainable and comply with our rules? And so this is a big question that, that I still have, and that everyone else who's been following this still has, is how will they comply with sustainability? There's also this, existing hydrology. The system kind of evolved together with all these water uses that have taken place for, the last 50 to over 150 years. And so how would this change in really how the whole system works, moving this huge area of influence of pumping to one concentrated area? How would that impact the surrounding streams and rivers? It's safe to say that the streams and rivers would not act as they do today. And so it's this huge question. And so that's what I'm getting at this slide, is that, because all of our streams and rivers and aquifers are connected, and because RWR continues to provide no information on, one, they've indicated that they have, run the model, run RGDSS with their own plan, and they've said they can do it without injury, but they have not supplied that publicly. In fact, this last week, they had told me that if I wanted to know, I could hire an engineer and run it myself. So that's a little surprising and a little unfortunate and frustrating, but really, a thing that I'm concerned about, and that I think this group should be concerned about, is that fundamentally changing the way that the streams and the aquifers interact now by concentrating this really large amount of pumping in one small area could have large impacts to the surrounding streams and rivers, and also to other confined and unconfined aquifer users. And RWR continues to fail to explain what those impacts would be and how they plan to mitigate them, and how they would have a role in aquifer sustainability. Because again, going back where that area of the confined is already unsustainable, how do they propose to comply with the rules and make sure that the aquifer is sustainable going forward? And so again, without detailed information, they just really can't say there would be no impact. And that's where the concern lies. I think that's where, you all should be paying attention and engaging in this issue, because whether or not you're a farmer and a rancher, if you live in the San Luis Valley, you rely on our aquifers for your drinking water. If you live in town, all of the municipalities have groundwater wells. If you live in the country, you probably have a domestic well. There's a couple people I know that don't, but most people have a domestic drinking water well. People, as we saw in the poll, really care about water for food, for local food. They care about water for their livelihoods. If they depend on it for farming and ranching, they care about our vibrant cities and towns. They care about water for recreation. And because all of these resources have been shown in both the model and in the courts to be connected and fully appropriated, this new use could impact all of us. And so I'm going to kick it over to Michael Carson with the Rio Grande Water Conservation District. He wanted to share with the community and share with all of you today what you can do and how you can get involved. And so, Michael, I'll leave this slide up for you, but let you do the call to action. But just really appreciate, again, everybody taking the time this morning to get on the meeting and to learn more. And, water it sustains us all. And so it's so important that we're all being engaged here. So thank you for letting me speak. If there are any questions, I'll drop my email in the chat. You can feel free to email me or put a message in the chat. But my email address is heather@slvwcd.org. I'm kind of looking for Michael. There he is. Okay, I'm going to stop talking and kick it over to you, Michael.
Michael, I think you're
Good
on mute.
morning. My name is Michael Carson. I'm the IT manager here at the Rio Grande Water Conservation District and head of the Protect Our Water campaign. Just to touch on what Heather said, I wanted to take a few minutes or a couple minutes. We're a little behind, so I'm going to keep it brief. To just reiterate that we've been running the Protect Our Water campaign now for 3 years. It's really heated up now since RWR approached Douglas County with this concept. So I just wanted to let everybody know to go ahead and visit our website, protectsanluisvalleywater.com. We'll put that link up in the chat. I think it's already been put up in there. And just apprise yourself of what we're doing. Take a look at our partners. We have a huge list of partners in our coalition, people who've contributed to this effort, and spread the word, spread the word with your friends and family all over the Front Range, all over Colorado, all over the San Luis Valley, and help us fight this fight to keep this water here and to keep water concepts like this from coming into this valley and to continue this fight into the future. This is the third attempt at a water grab in as many decades. And so again, I just wanted to reiterate to everybody, please visit our website and help us join this effort. Visit our website, share our social media campaigns, and thank you for this time. Thank you for attending the symposium, and I'll let us move forward. Again, we're running a little behind, so I'll go ahead and hand it over back to Armando. Thank you, Armando.
Yes, thank you, Michael, and thank you, Heather. Appreciate your thoughts and comments on a very challenging topic. And as many rural communities are, we're limited resource. Individuals who live in these communities have to serve in various roles, and Heather and Michael are two of those individuals who do represent different stakeholder and constituency groups within the San Luis Valley. Michael is not only our tech master extraordinaire for the Rio Grande Water Conservation District, he's also a city council member for the city of Alamosa, so sees how it's going to impact municipalities in different manner. And Heather, thank you again for your thoughts and your comments. They were very valuable, and some of the comments that were shared within the chat, I think, really express it. People are trying to really grasp what the impact is going to be, really striving to understand all sides, all issues, but trying to understand, that since we are in a limited resource community, we don't have as many resources as many other communities, and water is one of our key resources. Losing that may have a significant impact as we move forward in the future.
Yeah, Armando, I appreciate that too. And one thing though this has been kind of tough. It's taken a lot of time, and I would be lying to say I haven't been discouraged a couple times, with this whole big conversation and trying to help Douglas County see the facts and the truth with this matter. But something that's really neat and that I would like to leave it with is that I've been so just humbled to see how many friends we have, and that yeah, we're this small community and we have limited resources, and it's really challenging for me to see the amount of money our district is spending already working on this. And we're a really small district, and so I think that's worth noting, is that this has been a pretty big draw on our community already, just to help educate people about the facts and to share how what a vague concept and just how misguided RWR's plan is. but it's been so cool to see everybody come alongside us. And this week there was a group that went up to talk to Douglas County, and it included Sarah from Colorado Open Lands, and representatives from the Colorado Egg Water Alliance and Trout Unlimited, the SLV Ecosystem Council, and some really great guys from the Orient Land Trust. And I was I'm so blown away, and it makes me tear up a little bit to realize that we have so many friends and we have so many people standing shoulder to shoulder on this. And I was joking with that group, but not really joking, that we've got water managers, we've got notable people in the political realm, we've got farmers, ranchers, fishermen, recreators, birders, boaters, conservation professionals, and even the clothing optional hot springs, all standing shoulder to shoulder on this. And it's just, what issue have you heard about in this day and age where so many people from diverse backgrounds get it? They understand what's at stake, and they understand how we're all connected, and that we might not agree on a lot of things, but we do agree on this. And that has been really uplifting and really cool to see.
Well, thanks, Heather. Appreciate those concluding comments. And maybe that's the new campaign, close off to protect our water or something. So we'll see what that starts. But water does unite us, as Rio talked about. And we're going to continue to have these discussions and these perspectives. We need a variety of them. And it's great. It takes a village, right? It takes a village to do so many things. It takes a village also to ensure that our resources and water are protected. And we talked about sustainability. How does it serve future generations in Southern Colorado, in the San Luis Valley, and how do we work in a collaborative manner to ensure that we're having appropriate distribution that serves all communities, and not just ones in focus that may have more resources.